Over the last 20 years, Seattle Mime Theatre has created and performed its own unique style of physical theater across the United States and around the world. Their celebrated physical and verbal talents have come together in their newest touring production, An Evening in America. 3 years in the making, this concert celebrates the written word and the distinctive regional voices of America's great writers. Every word spoken from the stage is the author's. Seattle Mime Theatre contributes a physical, metaphorical context for each story to enhance the author's words without obscuring or overwhelming them. An Evening in America showcases rich, well-contrasted stories that capture the specific regionalism of the author's points of view, places in the American landscape, both geographic and psychological. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, written by James Thurber, is one of America's most anthologized works of short fiction. A satiric jab at the battle of the sexes, this story finds Walter Mitty struggling beneath the weight of a henpecked marriage and tedious suburban life. He escapes his predicament by falling uncontrollably in and out of heroic fantasies. The entire story is performed verbatim.
We're going through!
The commander's voice was like thin ice breaking. He wore his full dress uniform with a heavily braided white cap pulled down rakishly over one cold gray eye.
We can't make it, sir! It's spoiling for a hurricane, if you ask me! I'm not asking, Lieutenant Berg.
Said the commander!
Throw on a power light. Rev up to 8,500. We're going through. The pounding of the cylinders increased.
Pocket.
The commander stared at the ice forming on the pilot window.
He walked over and twisted a row of complicated dials.
Switch on number 8 auxiliary.
He shouted.
Switch on number 8 auxiliary.
Repeated Lieutenant Berg.
Full strength on number 3 turret.
Shouted the commander.
Full strength on number 3 turret.
The crew, bending to their various tasks in the huge hurtling 8-engine Navy hydroplane, looked at each other and grinned. The old man will get us through, they said to one another. The old man ain't afraid of hell! Not so fast. You are driving too fast, said Mrs. Mitty. What are you driving so fast for?
Said Walter Mitty. He looked at his wife in the seat beside him with shocked astonishment. She seemed grossly unfamiliar, like a strange woman who had yelled at him in a crowd.
You were up to 55.
He picked up a copy of Liberty and sank back into the chair.
Can Germany conquer the world through the air?
Walter Mitty looked at pictures of bombing planes and of ruined streets.
Said the sergeant.
Captain Mitty looked up and through tousled hair. Get him to bed with the others, he said wearily. I will fly alone.
But you can't, sir. It takes 2 men to handle that bomber, and Archies are pounding hell out of the air. Von Richtman's circus is between here and Solier.
Someone's got to get that ammunition dump, said Mitty. I'm going over. Spot of brandy.
He poured some for the sergeant.
And one for himself.
War thundered and whined around the dugout and battered at the door. There was a rending of wood, and splinters flew through the room.
Bit of a near thing, said Mitty carelessly.
The Fox barrage is closing in, said the sergeant anxiously.
We only live once, said Mitty with his faint fleeting smile. Or do we?
He poured himself another brandy and tossed it off. I never see a man could hold his brandy like you, sir, so just begging your pardon, sir.
Captain Mitty stood up and strapped on his huge Webley Vickers automatic.
It's 40 kilometers to hell, said the sergeant.
The Buck, written by Joyce Carol Oats, is set in winter among the sparse pine forests of rural New Jersey. A weak-souled hunter named Woody Kuntz mortally wounds a majestic 10-point buck. A reclusive, iron-willed old woman tries to save the animal, but is herself killed by it in the living room of her old farmhouse. Recorded narration, projected text, and poetically spare choreography mix together to tell this bizarre yet emotionally resonant story.
His name was Wayne Kuntz, Woody Kuntz, part owner of a small auto parts store. Known to his circle of male friends as a good guy. You might say, a character. The way he dressed, his hunting gear, for instance. A black simulated leather jumpsuit, over it the regulation fluorescent orange vest. A bright red cap with ear flaps, boots to the knee like a Nazi stormtrooper's, mirror sunglasses hiding his pale, lashless eyes. He had a large, round, singed-looking face, a small, damp mouth. This big-bellied, quick-grinning fellow, the kind who keeps up a constant chatting murmur with himself.
What the heck is this? Some sort of rust or something?
He hadn't been able to talk any of his friends into coming with him. Deer hunting with bow and arrow. Woody Kuntz, 40 years old, 5 feet 10 inches, 200 pounds. He'd been married years ago, but the marriage hadn't worked out, and there were no children. Crashing clumsily through the underbrush in pursuit of deer. What is it? An animal of some kind? A large dog? A deer? A wounded deer? Grown men playing at Indians. Melanie Snyder, who has known hunters all her life, including her own brothers, understands. To the hunter, killing an animal is just a substitute for killing another human being. Male, female, that's the forbidden fantasy. Oh God. How many hours she's conscious, she can't gauge. At first, calling into the silence. The dying animal, beautiful even in dying, bleeding to death, soaking Melanie Snyder's clothes with his blood. And isn't she bleeding too? From wounds in her throat and face, her hands. She feels the life pass from him. A void rises from the loose-fitting floorboards as from the lower part of Melanie's body. She's sobbing as if her heart is broken. She's furious, trying to lift the heavy body from her, clawing at the body, raking her torn nails and bleeding fingers against the buck's thick winter coat, a coarse-haired, furry coat, but the buck's body will not budge.